Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the premiere show of How Well Are You? In partnership with the Mental Health Warriors based in the UK, all the way across the waters. And we're ending the stigma of mental illness one show at a time. So, as you all know, yesterday was the first day of spring, and spring is all about new beginnings and transformations. Spring symbolizes starting fresh and starting over. Well, I can't think of a better way to transition into spring 2023 with the launch of my new show, How Well Are You? I'm Cynthia Mobley Howell. I am founder and CEO of How Well Are You? And we are a health and wellness business registered, yep, in the sunny state of Florida. We promote an integrated approach to health and wellness where we focus on carefully managing and nurturing the spirit, the soul, and the body, thus creating optimal health. I'm a minister, I'm an international speaker, I'm a best selling author, I'm a life and spiritual counselor, and a mental health advocate. I have a new book. Yes, I said a new book scheduled for release this spring. The book is called Crazy Didn't Get Me Preparation for My Destiny. And it's available for pre order right now at www.cynthiamobleyhowell.com. That is www.cynthiamobleyhowell.com. That is my website where you can also connect with me on all of my social media platforms. Now, How Well Are You? The talk show is about discussing all things mental health. We're going to explore such topics as early intervention in mental health, bridging the gap between the mental health communities and the faith based communities, self care as it relates to mental wellness, depression, yes, suicide. We're going to be talking about mental health and the LGBTQ plus community. We're going to be talking about youth and young adult mental health. We're going to talk about your dietary lifestyle and how it relates to mental health. We're going to be talking about mental health and the entrepreneur. And these are just a few topics that we're going to be exploring on How Well Are You? Now, although many are more than willing now to speak openly about mental wellness in 2023, especially since the pandemic, we still have a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do when it comes to ending the stigma. So if you follow me on social media, you already know that my mantra is I'm not keeping quiet anymore. And I'm not. That's exactly what it means. I will not stay silent on the subject of mental illness. So you want to know why I'm so passionate about mental health? I'm so glad you asked. You see, I'm one of four siblings raised in a house where all of my brothers were affected by a severe mental illness. These were my three and only siblings. Imagine enduring schizophrenic outbursts, manic rage, and violent behavior on a almost daily basis. Sadly, my oldest brother got tired of struggling with bipolar disorder and died by suicide at age 32. My middle brother, who's schizophrenic, vanished into thin air and has been missing for 23 years. And my youngest brother, who is also schizophrenic, has lived in a mental health facility for the criminally insane for over 35 years. So, does that explain why I'm dedicated to ending the stigma? You see, it's because of the stigma that treatment was delayed for my brothers in the beginning. Unfortunately, by the time they did receive treatment, it was too little, too late. Well, that said, we have an amazing guest this evening who has his own story. And I'm not going to let you keep waiting, but I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. And I'm going to tell you something about this young man before he starts. But before I do that, hey fam, what's up, Jeffrey Edwards?
What up, though? What's good with you?
Everything is good, man. It's so good to have you. I'm so elated that you are my first guest on the How Well Are You talk show. I am super excited. I can't think of a better person to have as my first guest. So I just want to welcome you here and let you know, you already know how we roll. You already know how we do it.
Come on, fam. I had to bring y'all right. Come on now. Can't nobody else be your first guest but me.
You see what I'm saying? Oh, you make me feel so good, man. I love you with everything that's within me. But before we let you out the gate, let me go ahead and give our audience a little bit of background about you and tell them a little bit about you. All right?
Okay.
So listen, you all, this man wears many, many hats. When I tell you he wears quite a few hats, he does. Jeffrey Edwards is an author. He is a musician. He is the CEO and host of Middle Ground with JLE LLC. And his tagline is where we treat you like family. And that is the honest to God truth. So when you hear Jeffrey and I refer to each other as family, you know exactly what we were talking about. I've been on Jeffrey's talk show several times, and he does treat you like family. Jeffrey was born in the D, that is Detroit, Michigan. He graduated from Thomas M. Cooley High School in 1996. Oh boy, you're making me feel old.
Nah, you're young. You talking
He also graduated from Wayne State University, Mike Ilitch School of Business with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with a major in management.
No, listen.
August of 2020. So while the pandemic was doing its thing, my brother was doing his thing. Jeffrey is also an author. He wrote and published his first book in the hashtag musician thoughts inspiration. Keep working, keep grinding, keep praying to achieve rather your goals. And this was published in September 2021. Then my brother said, that ain't good enough. I got to come in and hit y'all again. So he released his second book, You Missed the Mark, but you can find it again in March of 2022. Now, Jeffrey is also a musician, as I told you, and he released his first album, The JLE Experience, in March of 2019. I think that's when the pandemic was like getting ready to stare us in our faces. And dude was releasing his first album. He then turned around. I'm telling you, Jeffrey doesn't let any grass grow under his feet, y'all. He turns around and releases another album, JLE World, in May of 2022. And then he's good at seconds. he started his second company, Rebel Force Entertainment L.L.C, in April of 2022. Man, you bad to the bone. Jeffrey rebooted his podcast, Middle Ground with JLE, where we treat you like family, in March of 2021. He made it his first company, Middle Ground with JLE LLC, in October of 2021. Now that's just a snippet. I already know he has so much more going on. He has a second show that he does on Saturday nights at 10:30, but I'm gonna let him tell you about that. So you've heard a snippet of what Jeffrey does. Jeffrey, you tell us about you.
Wow.
And then once you tell us about you, I want you to go ahead and go into the JLE story, because that's what we're here for today, the JLE story. And once you tell us the JLE story, then we're going to unpack that and we're going to break things down for our listening audience. Go ahead.
I mean, she kind of summed it up already. It's kind of weird hearing stuff I do. I appreciate it. Appreciate that. I guess since you said all that, the second show is Middle Ground with JLE Ground Floor, where the purpose is, the tagline for that show is where we can agree to disagree and still be family. Have grown conversation about topics where you can educate, entertain, and have some fun. It's the best fun you can have from your home watching us chop it up. And you will learn something in the process.
Okay.
I started doing music when I was 12. Wrote my first song in 8th grade. Front and back page paper. Couldn't tell me I wasn't Babyface. That was my role model. Even in class like Jeff, but it's like, what, 20 minutes? I don't care. I'm out here. I'm doing it. I mean, y'all don't understand. Y'all don't understand creativity. Y'all just hate. You know. But looking back on it, that was a long song. Don't do that. It shouldn't be front and back. It should be front and back. I always kept writing music. I didn't really start doing it until I got to Wayne State and met my first producer, Lauren. I started recording music. First song, horrible. I was so excited to be in the studio. I had so many different sounds going, but you couldn't tell me nothing. I was sweet. Until a girl at the time I was dating had to let me know it wasn't that sweet yet. But I got better at it. It was bad. I was telling the homies, like, man, this awesome. Jeff, it ain't like, y'all just hate it. I'm going to call so-and-so. It ain't hitting. I'm like, oh, man, they about to clown me. And they did, but I got better because I believe you put your mind to it, ain't nothing you can't do. You know, right. have relentless determination. You will figure it out. You're going to put the work in.
Right.
I wrote a book years earlier, but I kept losing it through viruses, so I ain't gonna be no author. Gone with all that. Wow. But you know, God has His own plan.
That's right. Absolutely.
So after I got separated, I'm sitting there trying to figure out what's my next move. My boy mom does her show on Anchor, and I'm like, what is Anchor? So I did the research. I'm like, oh, audio podcast, and I can do that. I ain't got to talk to people. I ain't got to look at them. That's down my alley. I'll be comfortable. So I did that. Like, okay, we cool. But as the show kept growing, I started meeting more awesome people. Shout out to Tisha Hammond, because she had a lot of great people that she introduced me to. You was on that list, countless others. Then it started growing to where, can you do a live stream? Like, look, it's audio. What you talking about live stream, man? I don't make technology. What you want from me? And then I came across StreamYard, like, oh, shucks. You got to evolve. So, yeah, we had the option now, and I had to learn, figure out what to do with it. And first show, I was terrified. But Kobe was my boy, so my mentality, suck it up and do it, because God ain't going to let you not do it. You got to help find their purpose. And that's the point of the first show, Middle Ground with JLE, where we treat you like family. Interview amazing individuals to help people find their purpose. Okay. And I came up with the treat you like family. So I need you to be totally comfortable to give me that Yoda game for the last question. What advice do you have for someone trying to find their purpose?
Okay.
I got to crack a joke, do a dance, whatever I need to do. I need you comfortable to give me the best advice for that question. And it just eventually, I guess, evolution morphed to the second show where now I can cover all topics for you. You ain't got to go nowhere. I'm slowly working on my own network for it as well for other people to do their show because I know a lot of amazing individuals. And from there, books, music, graduating. And I guess when you go into the JLE story, my father passed away when I was 12, January 6, 91. Now, in 89, I already knew if he make it to 96, that's a good look because his health was very bad. From a stroke or two, he could barely speak. But after a while being around him, you can understand him. So I'm like, hey man, his health ain't the best. But we'll see what happens. But they would always tell me the stories when they used to do stuff with him when he was younger. He could talk and all that. So I used to be a little salty, like I ain't want to hear that. Like, I got the end of the road version of them. I want to hear about y'all going out to the park. What kind of crap is this? I got the scraps. You know, but when he passed away, it broke our family. And it was kind of like, okay, everybody went to their own, figuratively speaking, world and closed the door to deal with it. And I'm like, I'm still here. I got to graduate high school. Okay, you're young, buddy. Well, you believe in God. You want to do music, engineering. So you're a nerd. So that's what you do. Now, along the way, at Cooley High School, there were countless dope dealers and game bangers that would want to recruit. But I love women too much. So prison ain't got nothing I want. And back then, I was short and fat. You know, I got a little taller in 2000, but back then I was real short and fat. Like, nah, bro, I ain't got time for all that. I'm trying to talk to that pretty thing right there. See, you go fight them dudes for them little corners. I'm gonna go talk to her. Well, I ain't gotta worry about that. And that was my thing. Like, I ain't got time for that. But as I got closer to like 10th grade, 11th grade, then I started realizing, like, oh, he ain't gonna see you graduate. How do you deal with that thought? You know, devil will come at you like, hey, you thought about this 89. You seem to be all right with if he ain't there, but it's approaching. And I didn't know how to deal with that thought. So I figured, well, I smoke some weed, drink gin and juice. That was my drink back then. Don't do none of that, people. It don't solve nothing. I'm still an honor roll student. So chance you to have interventions. Like, man, you drinking every day with your brother and friends. Like, yeah, but I still get 3 to 3.5. What you talking about? I'm good. I'm trying to master that situation though. Like, that was always a back thought. That June 96, he ain't gonna be there. How you deal with that? How you figure out manhood? So 10th, 11th grade come along. It wasn't until senior year come, and it's like, wow. Every 5th hour, that dread and depression would hit like, ooh. Yeah, this dude ain't gonna see you. What you gonna do? Like, okay. And it was
so Jeffrey, let me just keep your train of thought, but let me just stop you right here for one moment.
Okay.
So at 12 years old, your father passed. You were 12 years old when your father passed.
Yeah.
And obviously, as you said, that broke your family. So I can only imagine you being a male child and your daddy, who is usually our heroes, passes at the age of 12. Now, here's the part that's really getting to me as I hear you talk, because from that point, you were, if you will, obsessed with what was going to happen in 1996. So you were being, for lack of a better word, tormented from 1991, even though you were, as you say, you were a nerd, so you were an honor student. You tried the gin and juice, you tried the weed, and that, you know, no, we ain't gonna do that because we got to stay on the straight and narrow. We're not gonna do gangs because I heard you say because you like soft legs too much. You don't do dudes, so you know you ain't trying to go on the hard legs. So you know,
ain't got nothing to prison.
Yeah. So what just grabbed me was the fact, and I just want to bring this out, and then you can keep going, that from 1991 until 1996, well, up till, and you'll let us know what happened after that. But from 1991, you were obsessing about the trajectory of your life in
Well,
1996.
89.
That
Go back.
okay, and from you started in 1989 because he was sick.
Yeah.
So from there, because you already knew that he wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
So from there, you were obsessing all the way to 1996. You've gone ahead of the game. Like, what is going to happen in 1996 when I graduate high school? My daddy is not here. Who's going to teach me how to be a man? So that in itself had to be the worst kind of torment ever. So I just wanted to, I don't know if you all heard that. So I just wanted to reiterate that from 1989, Jeffrey was obsessing about what was going to happen to him when he graduated from high school in 1996 because his daddy was no longer around. Okay, keep going, Jeffrey. I just had to bring that out.
Yeah, and I guess when I really look back at it, that day I thought about it, 89 really was the end of my childhood because I had to start foreshadowing how this going to play out. Maybe he make it cool, but he might be really jacked up. But if he don't, how do we deal with it? And that was unknown. So I got back up in 11th grade because I guess I looked just like him. And my mom wasn't dealing the best with it. She didn't realize I had a big ego because I had to create that myself. And that was, I'm the greatest man alive. I put my mind to it, ain't nothing I can't achieve. Hype my own self up. But I guess she felt with the negative reinforcement that would make me tougher. Like I don't need that. You ain't paid attention to. I'm sweet in these streets. I don't need that type of you stupid. You can't do this. You ain't gotta do that. I don't need that reverse psychology. But that's the way she played it, and the pressure moments would kick in to where for a week.
Now the she was who?
My mother.
Okay, got you.
And I really can't remember if it was fall or winter semester. It may have been around springtime, maybe, because when there was snow outside. For a week, I contemplated attempted suicide, where for a week straight, I get a knife, I be in the kitchen, knife to my wrist. I didn't want to put that in my first book, but God says it's gonna help people, so I had to put it in there.
Okay.
I'm like, man, who would care if I do it? But God will work with you wherever you are. And at that time, Tupac's one of my favorite rappers, and Be Against the World was like my Bible. So again, God will work with you where you are. I will always hear, put the knife down, go play Me Against the World. And I'll play the album. And by that Friday, well, we can put this knife crap down. You don't know what your purpose is, but it ain't doing this. You can't take yourself out. So I get a person that might hear those thoughts and feel that way. But it's hope for you not to do it. Because you do got a purpose. And people do care about you. But I dealt with more depression by my senior year because every 5th hour I would look out the window until one of my homegirls just came over there like every day, like clockwork. We'd crack a joke in Spanish, then you would move your seat, you'll look out the window. What's wrong with you? And I was telling her, like, well, my dad ain't here. It messes with me. The drinking and weed ain't helping. So I get depressed about it. And she was like, well, we got your back. God got you right. So you can't get through it even though he ain't here. I'm like, dang, I guess I ain't looking at it that way. And she like, so this is the last day you're going to be sitting over here staring off into the world because you thinking, man, because I'm going to throw a rock at you. Like, okay, I want no trouble. So your friends you might have a friend that might notice you and they could pull you back. And then I stopped with that depression. the last time I had any bout of depression was, I would say, the end of 2020 when I was searching for jobs after I graduated. So I just knew, got my degree, January, I'm good. What happened like that?
Hold on. Let me stop you right here for just a second. And let me shout out to Adam and Carrie Duvall over in the UK, who are the Mental Health Warriors founders. Hey, y'all. And also to my sister, Katrina Shaw. She's a very dear sister. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you so much. But let me ask you this, Jeffrey, because you kind of flew through that a little fast. I wanna stop for just a moment. And I know that you said that, you would put the knife, to your wrist, and God always intervene, and thank God for God, because he knows that we have a purpose. He knows his plans for us, and he has a purpose for us. So as hard as some people might try to kill themselves, God, if he ain't ready for you to go, you ain't going nowhere. So he's going to run interference, if you will. But the part that I wanted to go back to is, I know it was God who ultimately did not allow you to do that. But did anybody know? Did your mom know? Did your friends? You may have said this and I didn't catch it. Did anybody know that you were doing that?
No, I never told nobody.
Wow.
I never said nothing about it till I put in the book.
Wow. So you were dealing with this all this time by yourself. And I wonder how many people out there that's listening this evening or tonight, depending, or this morning, or depending on what part of the country you're in, how many people are dealing with those suicide thoughts and they haven't said anything to anybody? Because and why didn't you say anything to anybody? Of course, I know it's kind of like, I'm ashamed to let people know that I'm thinking this, but can you just share with us why you didn't reach out to anybody?
Well, like I said, my family was broken by dealing with our father's death in private. So, I was on my own figure life. They wouldn't care. They were busy trying to cope themselves.
I got you. And I think I do remember hearing you say that. So, wow, that's such a shame, because here this young man is thinking about taking his life, but then you're also thinking, I can't say anything to anybody because daddy's gone. Everybody else is dealing with their own grief. And they're not going to care if I'm over here tripping, because I'm over here tripping. If I tell them, it'll just probably go in one ear and out the other. And that is a very sad situation, because thank God for God, because if God had not intervened and run interference, you wouldn't be here today talking to me, because you figured, ain't no point in me telling anybody, they're not going to listen. But then it didn't happen. How many people think the same thing, but they're successful in their attempt? They were thinking the same thing. I'm going to slit my wrist. I'm get up out of here, because nobody cares. They don't see me anyway. And they were successful, but you were not successful. And obviously, based on your bio, based on what, I talked about in your bio, what you followed that up with, you weren't going anywhere, because God had a purpose and he had a plan for you. And it's so important as we talk about ending the stigma. And that's the reason why I asked you that, because I didn't know if the reason you didn't say anything is because you were ashamed and you don't want anybody to know what you were going through, because that's one of the problems that we have with mental illness, is that, and a suicide ideation, of course, is, your mental health is not good. But a lot of people don't say anything because they don't want anybody to think less of them. They don't want anybody to think I'm crazy. You know, we use that term, and no offense to anybody, but we know the term. So a lot of people don't say anything, and they end up like the young lady who allegedly jumped off the balcony of her apartment building that quote unquote had everything, you know, a couple of years ago. The young man, the dancer that used to be a part of Ellen DeGeneres' show. And we can name so many others that have suffered in silence because of the stigma. And that's why we're here today. And that's why we're going to be here every third Tuesday of the month, because we are committed to ending the stigma surrounding mental illness. But go ahead, Jeffrey. I just had to throw that in.
No, I mean, I did feel those type of thoughts when it was put in the book, because I'm like, Andre 3000, that's forever, ever. It's in the book, you know. You can buy it and read it. You can take a screenshot. That's the only time I ever thought about it the way you just described it. Like, but I mean, I died at birth, so I'd be more reflective of, well, you had a umbilical cord around your throat, you died for 5 minutes, you came back, so you're here for something to help somebody.
Yes.
So it really ain't about you.
Yes.
You got to tell your story. Be very transparent, which I don't like doing, but I have encountered some people that it has helped, so I see why God wants me to be an open book.
Exactly, because I know the first time, I think I was on well, obviously, I don't know if it was a show that I was on with you or a show that I was on listening with somebody else, but I heard you mention that you had attempted suicide. I'm like, what? I was surprised, not in a judgmental way, but because of, you know, you're so jovial and you're, you know, and like everything is good. And that's what happens. We look at people, they're smiling, they're laughing, they're have a perceived measure of success. And so we don't think that people are thinking these thoughts because we can't see behind what is really going on in their face. Their face is saying one thing, but behind what we're actually seeing is something totally different. So that's why we really have to keep the conversation going. We have to keep talking about it. And I know it's not an easy thing to talk about. You know, it's not easy for me to tell the whole world that all of my siblings had severe mental health issues. But the fact of the matter is, they did. It's not easy to tell the whole world that my oldest brother committed suicide and that my middle brother is missing for 23 years and that my youngest brother has been in a mental institution for the criminally insane for 36 years. It's not easy, but you know what? Every time I share my story, somebody always says, you know what? My dad has mental illness, or my mom has mental illness, or my son is dealing with mental illness, or, you know, so we are not alone. And you know, we need to let our listening audience know that you are not alone. You're not the only one that's dealing with. Statistics say that 1 in 4, I saw 1 in 4, 1 in 5, give or take, US adults are living with the mental health issue. So look at it this way. If you're in a room, just say, we'll just make it simple, of 5 people, that means one of you guys in there has a mental health issue. So it's not that uncommon, but we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep the conversation going because there's too many people suffering in silence because of the stigma. My family suffered in silence. And as I said in the beginning, my brothers got the help that they needed, but it was too little, too late, because by the time anybody wanted to talk about it, they were too far gone.
Yeah. And I know in my first book, I met a guy that's in the UK on Instagram, and he bought it and said it gave him the reason to keep going. And that's when it was like, that's why he wanted you to put that in the book. Because, you know, you never know what people are going through and what your story might do to help someone keep going.
Absolutely.
I get it. Like, okay. I guess I
Absolutely.
ain't tripping now.
That's right. That's right. And I heard you say that you suffered a bout of depression in, did you say 2020 when you
Oh
were
yeah, I thought
coming
I was
out of
gonna be out of Wayne State. Got my degree. I'm out. I'm my next phase of my life, and well, with 30 jobs I'm planning today, like I'm still here. What the hell, man?
wow. Wow.
We started
So
having.
what was going on? What was going on? Was it the pressure? What I mean, what was causing you to be in that state of mind? You know, you've gotten your degree. You know, you ready to come out here and conquer the world. I mean,
Mhm.
was
I
it the
just knew.
overwhelm because of that? Like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. How I'm gonna get this done? What was causing your state of mind?
I mean, I guess had that naive type of thought. Okay, by January, February, you should be out of this spot. You should be doing something different, not still cleaning toilets, which ain't nothing wrong with. But
Right.
you got your degree, you're gonna be doing management stuff. And every job I'm applying for or something like, no, not you. Like, man, this is gonna be harder than what I thought. So when we started having more functions at work, I would be there and I'm like, I'm not bothering none of these people. I ain't supposed to be at this meeting. I'm supposed to be gone. And it would be depressing. Like, okay. But I would remind myself, what God got for you is for you. So you ain't found the spot yet. That's for you. Just keep applying, keep being a good worker, and eventually you'll get out of this place. And end of 2020, I did find a job on LinkedIn where I'm at now and got out of there.
Wow.
But I can understand if someone, I got the degree, I got the trade, I'm about to be doing it. Sometimes it don't happen the way you thought. Don't mean it ain't still gonna happen though. You just gotta be patient. And know God got you, and what He got for you is for you. So don't trip. With me, I'm tripping. Like, man, I'm sick of this people. I'm sick of being here. Wow, my goodness. What?
And you know, it's and it's very easy to get into a state of depression when you're in a place where, like you said, okay, I got my degree. Like a lot of people, and you were a little bit older, but a lot of young people, when they come, you know, when they do their 4 years and they get that degree, and they like, okay, I'm getting ready to get this job, and it doesn't happen, and then they're like, well, I thought they told me that go to school, get your degree, and you get this big time job, and you're successful. But I can see how when things don't turn out the way that we expect them to, not just
Mhm,
with school, but in relationships, in
mhm,
business, in so many areas of our life where we are expecting one thing to happen and it doesn't happen in the timing that we expect it to happen. I'm preaching to the choir. it
mhm,
it can be very easy to allow yourself to get into a state of depression. And mind you, once you allow yourself, and I'm saying allow yourself because I know it's easier said than done, but believe it or not, I have moments where I deal with depression, but I fight it. Like you said, with God's help, I know that I don't have to stay in
mhm,
that state. But if you allow yourself to entertain all those negative thoughts, well, this is not going to happen. You're not going to be able to do this. That one over there is doing this, that, and the other. You should have been much further along in life by now. Yada, 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 yada. Like you said,
mhm,
all the chatter that's in your head, if you allow that chatter to stay in your head and cause you to become very depressed, because there are levels of depression, I believe. But when you get into that deep, as they say, as a friend of mine referred to it a long time ago, that deep, low down, dirty depression, then the next step is going to be you're going to start thinking about suicide.
mhm.
You're going to start thinking about suicide. And I always say that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Can I
True.
say that again?
Mhm,
Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. This too shall pass. When you're in the midst of the situation, it looks like everything, the walls are closing in around you. You can't breathe. And so your mind is telling you, the enemy is telling you, the only way out is for you to just end it. Just like my brother. Listen, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm just going to end it all. But we know that that is not the answer. And let me just say this when we're talking about suicide. People that commit suicide are not weak, as the misnomer is. You know, people say, oh, they're just weak. They're just weak-minded. Now, you can have your own opinion, but I have my opinion. I'm not going to say that they're just weak. You know, people say, oh, they're selfish. They're not thinking about the people that they're leaving behind or whatever. We can say all of that as much as we want to, but that person is gone. So we don't have the opportunity to get into their head and allow them to explain to us why they did what they did, because they're gone. So we shouldn't say, we don't know. You know, everybody's tolerance level is different. I can tolerate some stuff that you can't tolerate. You can tolerate some stuff that I can't tolerate. Unfortunately, for some people, suicide to them is the only answer. And let me just say to you that suicide is not the only answer.
No.
It's not the answer. There is, I want to plug this in. There is a number and it's 988, and that is the crisis prevention line. If we have anyone out there that's having suicidal thoughts, you feel like, you know what, I'm at the end of my rope. I can't do this no more. I can't take it anymore. I want you to go to your phone and dial 988. If you're contemplating suicide right now, I want you to go to your phone and I want you to dial 988. That's the number that you need to dial, because this doesn't have to be it for you. This doesn't have to be the end for you. Jeffrey Edwards, our guest today, is a living witness that if you hold on, if you hang in there, that you will eventually get to where you are trying to get. To God be the glory. Thanks be to God that he did not succeed in his suicide attempt. So there's that number. It's going across your screen right now, 988. If you know somebody that is contemplating suicide, go right now to your phone. I'm begging you, and dial that number. And there's going to be a trained professional on the other side of that phone that will assist you and help you to come to grips with those feelings that you're having. Don't dial 911, because if you dial 911, the police are coming and they're not going to be as nice as the mental health professionals. This number 988 was instituted, I believe, last year, July of last year. A lot of people aren't aware of it now, but that is the number that you should call if you're in a mental health crisis, because a mental health professional is going to be on the other side of the line to assist you. And as we begin to wrap up, Jeffrey, tell us your final words. Tell us how you're feeling now, where you are now. Why are you glad that you didn't cut your wrist and check out of here? For one thing, I would have never gotten to know you. But for our listening audience, I want you to give us some final words on your thoughts about suicide ideations. I want you to talk about why you're glad that you didn't succeed. And I want you to let our listening audience know how they can get in contact with you.
Well, The Bible says the tongue breathes life and death, and we all were made for a purpose. So when you're going through those moments, your breakthrough around the corner, and the devil don't want you to be that successful because a lot of people you're going to impact. So if he can take you out when you might be at your lowest, he trying to get you up out of here because you might help a million plus do something with themselves instead of just like, oh my God. What up? That's my third mom right there, Dr. Lisa. Appreciate her. And if you having those thoughts, you have to start weighing, okay, if you do it, you're gonna be gone. People are gonna miss you. And you ain't completed your purpose. The only fear on this planet I have is to die and not fulfill my purpose. That'd suck to meet God like Jay. You was supposed to do A, B, C, D, but you did this right here. And it would help that person who would have found the cure for cancer, for example. And all these people got help, but you did that. So all them billions didn't get help. That would suck for God to tell me that. Like, dang, I made that one choice and a billion didn't get help. Nah, can't do that. Gotta complete my purpose. Gotta do it. Don't listen to those thoughts. I mean, it's still weird to talk about me. I'm kind of shy a little bit and look at Opti Musician CEO like, wow, you added some titles over the years. Come from custodian, paying for college, to all that. So it ain't nothing you can't do on this planet if you don't put the work in. Why don't you keep your eyes on God and you wouldn't be the hardest work in the room? If you don't know your purpose, you will find it. And along the way, I can look back on it, even though my father wasn't here. God put a lot of great council of elders, I call them, along the way that gave me the game my father would have gave. So I still got it, just not from my father. And even to today, I still get it from people. And I just try to pay it forward. So everything I do tries to be in that form of my daily post that I'm putting a book together for daily devotionals to inspire someone to keep going or whatever they're trying to do. That's my way of paying that forward when people would just pass that knowledge to me that whatever you do, you got to make something of yourself. You can't be a typical black statistic. When I was coming up in the 80s, you're going to be dead or in jail or a teenage father before 21. As everywhere you look, everywhere you saw that they said about you, like, that's not my life. We're more than that because God created us to be something awesome. You might not know what it is, but you were created for something awesome. But you do got to stick around so you can figure out what that is. And people are watching you. I've learned this on my journey so far. I ain't think I've done enough yet, but I've learned people have been watching. You start from here, start some stuff while you had a few patches, and now look at you taking off. And I encourage them to do more. So they might not ever tell you that they watch your life and got them on track. So whether you want to be a role model or not, you are. You're a brand, and what does your brand say about you? What type of person are? What type of character you have? Because people are watching. Even the ones you think ain't watching are watching. So hopefully you trying to fulfill your purpose and be a blessing to somebody. And
Wow.
they may tell you one day that I watched you and it made me get my life together. And that would be very humbling when you hear it. Like, I didn't realize anybody was paying attention. I'm just moving to do my thing, trying to get my bread up so I could do this and this. And the whole time you were just taking notes, like, okay, I'll do it this way. I'll do it that way. He did it that way, I'm gonna do it that way. And you being a roadmap for somebody. So taking yourself out, it might be a billion you're supposed to help on this planet. Don't have that conversation with God that you could have did this, but you did that. You don't want to have that conversation.
Woo! Wow, let me tell you, you said a mouthful right there. I don't want to have the conversation with God. I don't want to take myself out and have the conversation with God about the billion people on this earth that I could have helped. So if y'all didn't hear anything else regarding suicide, don't take yourself out because you don't want to have the conversation with God about why you didn't help the billion people that he needed you to help. Jeffrey, how can our listening audience reach you? How can they contact you?
They can reach me on LinkedIn, Jeffrey Edwards, Facebook, Jeffrey Edwards, or my Instagram at Middle Ground with JLE. I think that's it for I'm still working on my website and all that.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Well, you have it, folks. There you have it.
Oh, and I was a pastor kid too. So
say it again.
I was a pastor kid, so I might sound a little preachy at times.
Oh my goodness. It all makes sense. It all makes sense. He's a PK, y'all. Anybody know what PK mean? That's a preacher's kid. So if you're a preacher's kid, you got the preaching in you. Jeffrey, I want to thank you so much for coming on as our guest on our premiere show, How Well Are You? Yes, thank you so much, family.
Hope I brought you out.
Say it again.
Hope I brought you out right.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You brought me out just right. So I thank you so much. Shout out to the mental health warriors, to Carrie, and to Adam Duvall. Those are my people over in the UK, y'all. Those are my peeps. Shout out to you, brother. Shout out to you, sister. I love you both. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you so much, Sister Katrina. Thank you, Dr. Fuller. Thank you so much, all of you who joined in. And we just want you to know again that How Well Are You is going to be airing every third Tuesday of the month at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10:30 p.m. United Kingdom time. And we are the mental health warriors, y'all. And we are ending the stigma surrounding mental health issues one show at a time. God bless you, and we'll see you the next time.
How'd you feel? Oh, we're still live.